Welcome to Austria. While we are not in France, Vienna was still basically, France. The city had been under French rule for quite a long time, which had only recently come to an end.
So we are still kind of, like, it is sort of a French exhibition. I'm under the assumption that it's going to be at least strongly influenced by the French.
Yeah, I mean, the city's kind of French, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
It's very French influenced up until recently. They're trying to kind of come out from that, but yeah, it's basically France.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But we still have another country in the running, so what we said last week still stands.
Yeah, I mean, technically. We are coming to the city now, while it is under a great expansion, though, by the country's current emperor, Franz Joseph I. Luckily, we are here at the very peak of Vienna's great boom with this exposition. Right before a major stock market crash that will send the world into what was known as the Panic of 1873.
Fantastic. We love an economic recession.
Perhaps one day we will cover that portion of history on the podcast, as it was a very entertaining and probably a good warning for all of us that Great Depressions kind of come fairly often in history, and we're kind of due for one.
Great! Love that for us. That sounds fantastic. Maybe we should talk about that soon.
But as I said, we are currently in the middle of a lovely boom for Vienna, so let's not spoil it with the talks of the future catastrophes, shall we?
Okay, that's fair. Let's talk about Vienna. Let's talk about Vienna showing off all the cool things that people had done around the world at that point.
So instead, let's head over to the fairgrounds, which are settled along the Danube River and cost £23.4 million.
That's 20, hang on, 23, that's more than the last one cost.
Well, I'm actually really hoping that that's converted into today's money, because that's a lot of money to be spending in the 1800s.
That's fair.
Especially
fair.
When that stock market crash I told you about.
Oh yeah, I see it. I get the connection. Yeah.
It kind of happened on May 2nd, 1873.
Oh no. Okay.
This fair, it opened on May 1st.
Of course it did.
Yeah. Oops. The future came a little quick for the Austrians.
Oh, that's not good. That's bad timing. That's very bad timing.
And on top of the stock market crash, there was also a worldwide cholera pandemic.
Stop it. What?
Does this sound a little familiar?
Oh, no. That's bad timing.
Yeah.
That's not ideal. Oh, no. All right. How many people died in this fair? I'm so, that's so much bad luck that I refuse to believe that everyone walked away happy.
Well, as far as I know,
people passing out from heat stroke in the greenhouses. We've got people falling through floors, in between gaps in the floorboards in other exhibitions. So, who died in this one? Because the number's not zero.
Well, as far as I know, nobody.
Really? Okay.
But I mean, yeah. So yeah, currently, currently we're just currently going in reverse order as this fair, it seems, but we're just kind of giving it a few years in between possible catastrophic events.
Okay, we've got at least a break from one angle as far as catastrophic events around the exhibition, because we've got the recession, we've got the outbreak, so
we're just waiting for the depression now, and the full-on stock market crash. Yeah. Things to look forward to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the organizers of the 1873 World's Fair, they estimated for 20 million visitors.
Okay.
They unfortunately only received 7.3 million.
That is not the same number. Okay.
Yeah.
That is very off. That's less than half. That's not good.
No, this made their budget and state finances go into complete and utter shambles.
Oh, this explains part of that recession at least. Okay, that's not ideal. Frick. Okay.
Well, I mean, it was already going to shit because this...
Yeah,
I mean,
it was already on the
fair
way there.
opened, stock market crashed one day later. You kind of was already into absolute shit.
yeah, clearly, like they're
And people were
like,
dying all over the place.
yeah, totally.
So
Like,
you weren't going to get
clearly
the
these-
attendance because many million of your visitors were already kind of dead from
Yeah, that's
cholera.
fair.
Like,
This is fair.
or
Okay,
they could
so
not afford to come because they were kind of in the middle of a depression worldwide.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's not like it's because of this exhibit that they were thrown into a major recession.
This just kind of
but
helped
because-
make it worse for the poor Austrians. Yeah,
exactly. It wasn't exactly helpful to them.
No.
That's not great.
In the long run, though, yes, because they did end up, because like a lot of this stuff ended up helping in like later on once the whole thing kind of
Okay. Blew over.
They get more tourism because of it.
Okay.
So I
that's
mean,
good.
in the long run, yes, but I mean, in the then and now, they're probably going, oh fuck, we're screwed. We're going to all die and never recover from this. Big mistake.
Everything is terrible, and our government spent 23 million on this thing that didn't even have like 10 million visitors actually show up. So
yeah,
did they at least make a profit? Because it was.
I'm not entirely sure. I didn't see a lot on what they made.
We don't have the numbers for that this time.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
So yeah, but it didn't help that they had made this absolute grand 233 hectare site at Prater Park with a 108-meter rotunda. The rotunda was deemed to be the widest domed structure in the world at the time, which the Austrians were quite proud of.
Yeah, sure. As it should be. That's a big accomplishment.
Now, at the time of the opening, a lot of the other pavilions were not completed, a trend that we're kind of seeing quite often. A lot of these host countries are definitely biting off more than they can chew as they fight for dominance in the hosting category.
Yeah.
But on day one, visitors did flock enough to bring Vienna traffic to a standstill. So there was some hope for this fair on day one before the whole stock market crash and everybody threw up their hands going, the world's about to end.
Yeah, that's fair. So, okay, it kind of seems like the trend that we're seeing so far here is it's kind of like the Olympics.
Yeah.
Or like major like sporting competitions and stuff. I'm not a sports person, but you know what I mean? Where it's like FIFA comes in, or like, I shouldn't call it FIFA specifically, but like organizations like that come in and they like go to the city and they're like, hey, we want you guys to build like this massive stadium for us for this major event. And then it costs them a ton of money to do it. And then it just like decimates the local economy because they throw so much money at this thing for like a one-time event that makes them a decent chunk of money back, but now they've got to like maintain and upkeep like this whole stadium and like this whole like setup every single time, and it's always in a new place every single time.
Yeah pretty much. So I'm thinking we start with the main attraction that no one could really miss when they entered Vienna's fair, the rotunda. So it was designed by the Scottish John Scott Russell, who was actually a promoter for our first fair all the way back in London in 1851.
Oh, okay.
So my new friend Russell actually did quite a bit in his time as an engineer, including assisting in developing steam engine carriages.
Okay.
So his carriages did unfortunately cause a few deaths when one of the carriages overturned and the boiler smashed.
See, this is what I mean. I knew someone died here. Okay, yeah.
Well,
but this isn't at the exhibit, though, right?
It was not at the exhibit, no. It was long before
okay.
the exhibit and back in England.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
But it was a feat of engineering that would help inspire their engineers to keep looking forward to other forms of horseless carriages.
Yeah.
He was also one of the first to observe the Doppler effect, which is some sciencey thing to do with sound frequencies and waves that I will not be attempting to explain. But he was extremely into various science things to do with waves because
physics.
Because he had like a pile of different things about waves, and he saw from like ocean waves and sound waves and all other things, and he built a pile of boats, and he was a boat engineer, and
physics.
Yeah, he was a sciencey guy, and I understood none of it. But back to the task at hand, he had even put in a design for the general building of London's 1851 fair, and lost out to our infamous greenhouse architect.
I feel like maybe, in retrospect, it would have been a better idea to let him design something
Yeah,
that wasn't a greenhouse.
but he did win for his design for the rotunda for this fair.
Yay!
So Austria was smart and said, let's build someone.
That's not a giant greenhouse that we're going to pack a bunch of people into.
Yeah. So when I say that Russell designed it, I mean that he actually designed the dome, which is the widest part of the structure that won all these like awardy things.
Yeah.
And was undefeated for at least a century. The rest of the building, which jutted out from the dome to make it a larger exhibit space, was designed by the Austrian architect Baron Karl von Hauser. The building stayed standing where it was originally built until 1937, when, yet again, a fire sadly destroyed the engineering marvel.
Sounds about right.
It would continue to be the world's largest dome, though, until 1957, when the dome for the Belgrade Fair was built, and it was only 1 meter larger in diameter than this one.
Okay.
And that one would hold its title of world's largest until 1965, and it continues to be Europe's largest dome to this day.
Cool.
So that's kind of cool.
That's really cool, actually.
So the 1873 fair held almost 26,000 exhibitors, so much smaller than some of the others, even with the pandemic and the stock market crash.
Okay, so that's not bad.
Yeah. While mechanical exhibits were still a major part, audiences actually seemed to be the most interested in the more educational exhibits this time around. One such exhibit actually kind of made me laugh really hard, as it was called History of Prices.
The history of prices?
Yeah. I'm like, you're going into a freaking stock market crash, and you have an exhibit called The History of Prices.
This is good. I mean, I feel like if they knew that they were going towards like a stock market crash and like an economic decline, because like, you know, economists, they see the signs in advance, right? So like, I kind of feel like it would actually be very fitting and topical.
Right. So the exhibit focused on labor productivity and how the public was dependent on economic development due to their tastes.
They're not wrong.
No, not at all.
That's fair.
I just kind of found it hilarious that these like 7.3 million people were seeing this harsh reality of it and absolutely living it as they're walking through that exhibit.
Yeah.
Like, if they could even afford to get to it in the first place.
I can't imagine that it would have felt very good to walk through and see it all laid out in front of you.
But I'm like, how many of these people, though, were probably, like, the rich people who probably had no fucking care in the world because they're like, we are above this depression. We have enough money, we're fine. So, you know what? We can spend our money however we want.
I hear you, but only like the really, really wealthy people wouldn't be concerned about that. Like the wealthy people are also very concerned about losing their wealth, right?
Yeah.
So like,
or they're just pissed because the prices were too high.
Yeah, exactly. Where like, oh, now I have to pay my workers like so much,
or they're probably just like, why is this like no longer available? What the hell?
Yeah, exactly. The loss of their luxuries does bother them. So.
Yeah. This was also the first expo to be used as a site for scientists to gather, with 12 congresses and a conference being held somehow during all of this turmoil. I'm like, how these scientists, like, who probably are not, like, very wealthy at all.
Scientists are generally known for being wealthy, no.
Like, how they could somehow get to Austria for 12 congresses and a conference.
I hear ya. I hear ya.
During a... thing. I'm like, how are you like maybe not at this time they were more wealthy because I guess maybe like your scientists were more from like the upper class because you could actually have the leisurely time to
actually, you know what, that's a good point, because in order to have the money, in order to get the education, in order to become a scientist, you would have to be a little bit up, like higher up there, especially like since we're still in the 1800s. Like education was not a thing that everybody had access to, and like the student debt, you know, wasn't necessarily like as big of a thing as it is now. So you and I are coming in with the presumption that like, you know, students be broke. But at that point, in order to be a student, you kind of had to come from money.
Yeah. So I'm like, but
Or
I'm
be a
like,
freaking
still, I'm
super
like,
genius or something. I don't know.
I'm like, that's still a pretty dang good feat to have.
I would say
12
yeah.
congresses and a conference
Yeah, totally.
happening, right?
Yeah.
So Japan once again was a major influence on this expo, as it very quickly became a major business center for the various countries as well.
Yeah, that checks out.
Japan used this expo in two ways. They displayed their contemporary art instead of their more traditional art in order to please the European public,
Okay,
furthering the spread
interesting.
of Japanism, which we talked about last episode.
Right.
So they're like, okay, you're taking some of our older art. Here's some of our more contemporary art. Would you like this art? This might be more pleasing to you.
Be like, hey, you like that trend? Wait till you see this one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
mm-hmm.
But they also kept a very close observation of the technology and the social achievements that the Western countries were making.
I believe it.
It's no wonder that Japan had become such a global force to reckon with. Like, they basically, this is their second time on the world stage with this, and they immediately were like, we're going to use this to our advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, rather than trying to do this whole, like, very visual, we're going to try to one-up you, we're going to just sit back and we're going to watch carefully. And
we're going to learn.
Like,
oh, yeah, that's a good point.
And we're just going to be like a little spy that's just going to
infiltrate,
come and
learn. From you instead of coming in and like putting all our cards on the table and showing off everything that we've developed. Here, you can have this art that you're interested and we're going to learn how you guys are doing all your technologies.
Yeah.
That's strategic.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, Japan, you freaking are brilliant.
That's way smarter than, the ego battle going on between Britain and France.
Well, and the rest of the world, like, think about it, like America, probably just going in there, guns blazing, like, look at how amazing we are. We got the telephone. We got all these great inventors. Like, look at all the shit we're doing, and we're going to tell you all about it so that we can show our brilliance. And it's like, Japan's just like, tell us more.
Meanwhile, Canada's over there in their corner with, like, a pile of gold and some bacon. Like,
yeah, like, hi, we're
this
here.
Is what we got. We're here. We're just happy to be here.
And like Japan's pavilion was massive. So like they had done their homework before attending, bringing a full Japanese garden complete with a shrine, a model of a pagoda, which might have been seen at Tokyo's Imperial Temple.
Cool.
And they went back with a 96-volume report. Like, Alexander Hamilton had nothing on the Japanese. And then they started running their own national industrial exhibitions in 1877. Like, just for Japan.
Nice.
Like, just running their own little mini ones.
Like, kind of thing.
It's afraid, like, okay, we're going to do our own little mini ones. You guys have fun over there with your world ones. We're just going to come watch you.
Yeah,
and we're just gonna do our own little mini ones and learn from each, like, from ourselves, and take our information from what we're gaining from you.
yeah, we'll show off to each other, but you guys over there, you guys just keep developing your stuff, and then we'll come and take a look and see how you guys are doing,
and then one up it ourselves secretly.
Yeah.
Like,
that's some
yeah, they're freaking brilliant over there. Like, no wonder.
That's some clever shit. Yeah.
All right. So many museums and collections that still wow the world ended up actually being created during this exposition, with expositions on these being opened last year, actually, for the 150th anniversary of this World's Fair. So one of the exhibits that I was actually extremely impressed by for the 1800s standards was the Women's Pavilion, which actually focused on the conditions of the female working world during the industrial era.
I was hoping that you were going to say that it was going to show off, like, the achievements of women, but I guess we're a little bit too early for that. At least talking about the condition of women is a little bit, is like a step in that direction.
No, we weren't quite there yet.
Yeah.
But this was actually like a major first for women. Especially because many people in, like, the middle class had no idea that lower class women worked, and the exhibit helped fuel young feminists towards a fight for equality in education and working rights.
They didn't know that how did they not know? They were working for them. Like,
Yeah, but they didn't really like realize to like and like the extent and what was actually happening because they were so sheltered.
but like, who did they think like their maids, their nannies, their cooks? Like,
Well, like I don't think they realized like the like the industrial part, right? Like I think
okay,
I think they understood like the women's jobs, like your general women's jobs, but
right,
not like
like women in the
women in
factory
the
kind of thing.
actual workforce. What you actually like, so right, like at that point when you thought of the
Hmm.
workforce, you actually thought of like your male dominated jobs,
Yeah. Okay.
right? That was what the workforce was.
Gotcha.
Your
Okay.
womenly jobs was just what women did.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not your
The name.
workforce. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not the workforce.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. So that actually kind of like helped fuel feminism, like for the in the early stages of feminism. This exhibit like actually assisted in that.
Cool. Okay.
So there's actually an online exhibition that is permanently up and running from the 2023 exhibit showcasing this 1873 exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's only available in German at the moment.
Oh.
And
Oh,
I
no.
sadly did not get the German language part of my heritage. Because I would love to dig further into what they were like putting across during this 1873 exhibit. Like some of the photos and stuff like that looked really cool. Like they had like women like basically in like a factory setting, but like doing like the rope workouts kind of a thing. I'm like, that looks really interesting. I want to know more about the actual like background to that, but I don't speak German.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, unfortunately, I am a lowly monolingual, so I cannot help you with this one.
Yeah, I have very little German.
Yeah.
So I may actually end up having to go see my grandfather and be like, what German do you have left? And
Yeah. Do you have enough that you can translate this for me?
can you translate this for me? Or sit there with a translator and...
Yeah, if anyone's got some free time and you happen to speak German, hit us up. Send us a DM on Instagram.
Yeah. Or I'll just sit there with a freaking like with the Google Translate or
Google
something
Translate.
and just like type in or try to copy and paste everything.
Yeah, Google Translate and hope for the best.
Yeah. Or at least like better context.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, unfortunately for us, this is a short episode due to the lack of research available thanks to the bigger issues at play during this era.
Fair. There was a few other things that people had their attention on.
Yeah. Less and less information is known about this World's Fair, and more is out there about like the stock market crash and the cholera pandemic. But I can tell you that France came out fairly victorious in medals from what I could find. Because, you know, it's France and they want to brag about it. So they came home with 247 medals in third place of all countries.
Okay, good job, France.
Most of their medals came out of the arts category, of course. Another category that apparently did surprisingly well, since they got mentioned in Found Research, was New Zealand.
Okay, good job, New Zealand.
They got over 50 medals, but apparently lost out in one medal that they really should have won. There was some mix-up about categories by the prize jury, which lost them a medal for an exhibit that caused the Emperor of Austria to be astonished.
Ooh.
And this was for a pair of moa skeletons.
For what?
So, I figured you'd say that. So, moas are a type of bird that look almost like an ostrich or an emu, but they are unfortunately extinct due to overhunting. And from my research, it seems that they have gone extinct in the 1400s. But tales of seeing them have been told up to the 1940s. That people are like, oh no, I saw this moa, but they probably was like an emu or an ostrich. Or something else that looks kind of similar or whatever, right? But it is a species that is actually being talked about being revived by cloning, which I would actually say go for, because it does not seem as dangerous as freaking dinosaurs.
Yeah, this is true. If we're gonna experiment with cloning, starting with like a slightly less, less carnivorous, shall we say? Animal seems like a good idea.
Okay, we're cloning to bring back like animals that are extinct that are like actually like useful to the environment, that are not going to try to kill everyone.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we don't know anything about dinosaur like behavior. Like, we know we can make some assumptions based
I'm pretty sure a T-Rex is going to, or whatever, is going to murder us all.
Seems likely, yeah. Seems likely that would be less than ideal.
And from the size of a brontosaurus, I don't think we have enough room anymore because us humans have taken over too much of the earth. That most of the, especially the bigger dinosaurs, we don't have a habitat for them anymore.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we are
but
assuming
these lovely,
that cloning is
emu-sized birds, they could actually hang out and be okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is fair. We are kind of assuming that like the cloning would be successful enough to let them go out into the wild. I'm thinking that these guys, like the animals that come out of like a successful like cloning experiments and stuff, would most likely be in more of like a zoo situation. They have no survival skills, you know, like I don't see them successfully being rehabilitated into the wild for a very long time.
I mean, yeah, it depends, but I mean...
Also, it would completely wreck the ecosystem.
With how we're currently going... I would say let's not bring back any animals because most likely they're just going to go extinct again anyways because we're pretty much taking the entire world to go extinct and bring in a whole like species of animals and stuff, kind of like how the world has gone over and over and over again between the different ages.
Yeah, I am kind of more on board with let's protect the animals we have now rather than trying to bring back animals that have been extinct for a while.
But I'm like, if we are going to actually do this, this is a safer option. Let's not Jurassic Park this shit.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. That's totally fair. But yeah. As far as conservationism though, I feel like putting our efforts toward like successfully cloning and like replicating a whole like extinct species versus just trying to, you know,
save what we already have would definitely
I feel like one of those tactics is a little bit more promising than the other.
Yeah, for sure. But
and honestly a little bit easier. I don't know why we always take the hard path right away.
Right? So yeah, I think that ends up doing it for Vienna. So like as I said, not much information is out there, and sadly I couldn't find anything about Canada's participation, and my usual resources didn't even really have anything on like Great Britain's participation for me to be able to find like our stuff through. So hopefully like the next fair is better.
Yeah, a little bit more information, a little bit less worldwide doom and gloom.
Yeah. With that said, though, we do get to hop continents and come on over to North America for once.
Ooh.
So welcome to the grand old US of A, and say hello to Philadelphia, everyone.
Yeah, I figured it was going to be the US and not Canada.
Yeah, no, honey, we're not there yet.
No.
We only get a couple.
All right, let's go to Philly, though.
Yeah. Just in time for the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence.
Yay!
So we'll see you guys in 1876 on the weird side of history.
Bye!